Hey everybody, happy Tuesday. Today we are going to be talking about impulsivity and emotional regulation, the science behind why kids are struggling with these things and why sometimes adults struggle with these things too, and what you guys as parents can start doing today, tonight, tomorrow, this week to start to heal the areas of your child's brain that are causing them to struggle with these things in the first place, so you'll have less meltdowns, less emotional outbursts, and less issues with impulsivity. Okay, so as always, before I get into this, I have a couple of really cool stories that I want to share. As you guys know, I always try to make these live videos kind of relevant to whatever we're seeing with our clients for the week. And so we just had somebody enroll on Monday. They did their first set of exercises last Monday. I think it was either Monday or Tuesday. And within just a few days, mom texted me and said, I saw my son regulate his own emotions and calm himself down for the first time ever today. He started getting upset about something and he was able to calm himself down, which is huge for him. This has literally never happened in their life before, and I'm so excited for them. And then another thing that she shared the other day was he went an entire day without having any meltdowns at all. She said he was on his way into a really big, really intense meltdown, which he has a few times a week. He has meltdowns every single day, but he has a really big one that'll just kind of wreck the day for the whole family a few times a week, which is really intense. I mean, they've got a lot going on over there. But he was on his way into what looked like it was going to be a really big meltdown. And he, first of all, calmed himself down within just a few minutes. He didn't have the full meltdown. It didn't turn as bad as it usually would have in the past. But also, he didn't have any meltdowns for the rest of the day. So he didn't have any meltdowns all day, which is just so cool, so amazing for them. And they're only 1 week into our program, and this was just a few days into program. So, as we're talking about impulsivity and emotional regulation, I'm not going to spend too long on primitive reflexes today because I know I beat those to death in every single video that we do. But it is important, I think, to note that all he's been doing for this first week of program is primitive reflex suppression exercises and a little bit of right brain stimulation with some passive activities. We haven't even touched anything at the really sensory or motor level. We're all still working on primitive reflex suppression, and we saw that huge amount of change just through really, really simple exercises that we offer in the first 2 weeks of our program. So for you guys that don't know, we're actually also offering the first 2 weeks of our online program, which is valued at about $500. We're offering that to anybody that's interested in it for just $77 in a Facebook challenge. So $77 gets you access to the first 2 weeks of our program. It's going to be intense. You're going to do a lot of hard work, but actually it starts today. So registration closes at midnight tonight, but you guys are more than welcome to hop in on that. And if you have any questions at all about it, if you want to talk about it, you can just send me a message with your phone number and I will shoot you a text, and we can either call about it, text about it, Zoom about it, however you prefer to communicate about it. So don't forget, you can sign up for that challenge until midnight tonight for just $77, and I'm so excited about that. Okay, but anyway, let's talk about impulsivity and emotional regulation. Why are our kids struggling with that? What is going on in their brain that's causing that in the first place? And what can you guys as parents be doing this week to start to change that? Okay, so the first thing that I want to talk about is right hemisphere versus left hemisphere. And I know this is one that we talk about a lot too, but this is, I think, one of the most important things when we're talking about impulsivity and emotional regulation specifically, because the left side of the brain is the gas pedal. It's where happiness, anger, frustration come from. It's on go all the time. Say that, do this, go here. It's where our impulses are literally coming from, is the left side of our brain. It's also very logical, very literal. It tends to like patterns and repetition. It doesn't like change very much. So the left side of the brain is saying, go here, say that, do this, throw a chair, get angry, just go. Also, the right side of the brain is supposed to be kind of doing the exact opposite. It's supposed to be regulating everything that the left hemisphere is saying. So left hemisphere says, get super angry, and the right hemisphere says, that's not a very appropriate response to the situation. Or, maybe that's an overreaction, or think about your words before you say something really mean to your parents. So often we have kids that come through the program who's, let's say they're 12 years old. Maybe their left hemisphere is functioning at a 12-year-old level. It's doing its job perfectly, but their right hemisphere is maybe functioning at an 8-year-old level or a 9-year-old level. So they have all of this amazing intelligence too, because IQ comes from the left hemisphere. So they've got all this good stuff. Their left hemisphere is literally just doing its job, doing what it's supposed to do. But the right hemisphere is functioning at a much lower level, and it's not able to communicate with the left hemisphere to kind of communicate all of that regulation regulatory stuff the way it's supposed to be. I hope that makes sense. So the left side of the brain is saying, go here, say that, do this, get angry, say something really mean, whatever it is, just get up, go do it, touch it, play with it, whatever it is, just go, 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 go. And the right hemisphere often can't or isn't functioning at the same level, at the same speed to be able to regulate all of that. So just by starting to stimulate the right side of the brain, which we do that by stimulating the left side of the body, you'll see a lot of change in impulse control and emotional reactivity just by, giving a lot more stimulation to the right side of the brain than it's really used to. So even things like having your child brush their teeth with their left hand, or stand on their left foot, or do midline crossing activities, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit, or even really simple passive stimulation, like when they're watching TV, put an earplug in their right ear and cover their right eye. So now all of their visual and auditory stimulation is coming in through the left holes that go right to their brain. Your eye and your ear go straight to your brain. So if you take away all of the stimulation to their left hemisphere while they're doing something like working on homework or playing video games or watching TV, which you don't want to let them do too much of because that also stimulates the left hemisphere, but you can just do this, while they're in the car or doing something really simple. So stimulating the right side of the brain is going to be one major key to kind of pulling back on the emotional reactivity and the impulsivity. So the other thing that I want to talk about is really related to this, but it's midline crossing. So one of the things that we work on in our program is obviously just pulling up the functionality of the right hemisphere. Can we get the right side of the brain to function at a higher level to match the left side of the brain in its functionality? Which the answer is yes, we do that all the time. But we also have to get both sides of the brain communicating with each other. We can pull the right side of the brain up and get it functioning at the same level as the left hemisphere. And we can even pull up all these individual regions of the right hemisphere, like visual function and proprioception and all these good things. But we have this thing called a corpus callosum, which is essentially this bridge that connects the right side of the brain to the left side of the brain. And often in kids with ADHD and autism and sensory issues and behavior problems and all this stuff, their corpus callosum is actually physically too small. So what we want to do is we want to increase the size of the corpus callosum, and that's going to increase connectivity between the two sides of the brain. So we can actually increase midline crossing in the brain. So just getting the right hemisphere to cross that corpus callosum and communicate with the left side of the brain by really, really simple exercises like having our kids cross the midline of their own body. So I'm seeing this right now with one of our clients. It's been such a cool change to watch him go through. I remember on Monday, mom said, all right, we started, I think it's week 6, we started midline crossing exercises. I'm excited about it. I think he's going to do really well. And he couldn't do it. So our first exercise for midline crossing is literally, can they take their right hand and slap their left knee across their body? So they're picking up their left knee and they're slapping it with their right hand, and then they're switching back and forth like this. And that's what level 1 is for midline crossing. 3-year-olds should be able to do this no problem, but he was not able to do this exercise. Literally, he got super awkward. He lost his balance. He couldn't do it, and he got really frustrated with himself, and he couldn't make it through a single repetition of midline crossing. Then on Friday, mom texted me and said, we're hitting 10 to 12 repetitions now. And then she just texted me yesterday, I think it was yesterday, and said, hey, we nailed 25 repetitions, no problem whatsoever. But interestingly enough, he started nailing his midline crossing, and I predicted this for mom. I said, he's going to get this, and he's going to go deep, deep, deep into regression almost immediately. I know that that's coming. And what do you know? He got really emotionally reactive because his brain hit a new threshold in midline crossing, and now it had to disorganize so it can reorganize to accommodate being able to cross midline 25 times in a row with no issues. So we see the kind of negative effects of, not negative, they're positive. We're rebuilding the brain, everything's reorganizing, and it's good, but it's just so interesting to see the minute he nailed midline crossing, we saw kind of the negative symptoms of midline crossing issues come out because his brain is in that reorganization process. So regression is always good. It's always exciting. It's always amazing. It's a little bit uncomfortable sometimes, but it's a great sign that all the change that we're doing is is really going to stick in their brain. Their brain is making room to accommodate these good changes. So the first thing that I want you guys to do to work on impulsivity and emotional reactivity is stimulate the right hemisphere by stimulating the left side of the body. And the second thing I want you to do is work on midline crossing. So there's one other thing that I think, I didn't write this down, but I want to talk about it a little bit. Another reason that we see kids be extremely emotionally reactive, not so much with the impulsivity, but within emotional reactivity, is the startle reflex, the Moreau reflex. And I know I talked about this a few times in the past, but the Moreau reflex is also called the startle reflex, and it's exactly what it sounds like. It causes kids to be easily startled. So what happens is when a startle reflex is triggered, we get a surge of cortisol and adrenaline and all these icky kind of stress hormones flood our bodies when that startle reflex is triggered and it's not been integrated or suppressed correctly. So what happens is we have these kids there where you turn the vacuum on, or they're in a public bathroom and the toilet flushes, and then 3 hours later they have this crazy meltdown, or they get super angry about something that seems like not a big deal at all, and you're like, what the heck is this coming from? So many kids that have those 0 to 60 anger moments have had their startle reflexes triggered, and it could be even hours before. I remember there was one little guy that I used to work with a long, long time ago, and he would just get so angry at his mom and dad, but he could always keep it together at school really, really well. All the teachers, the principal, everybody said, he's got great behavior. We have no issues with him at all. He was one of those kids where the school's like, I can't believe that the kid that you're describing at home is the kid we see here in class, because he's just so sweet. And he was just doing his best to hold it together during school, and mom and dad are a safe place. And I know everybody has experienced that to some extent with their kiddos. But he always had the best behavior in school. And one day he literally just like hauled off and punched a kid in the face. And I remember talking to this kid, and I had a school meeting and everything, and talked to the principal, and we talked to the teachers and just talked about what happened. And every time this kid told the story about why he punched this kid in the face, really interestingly, on his own, he just thought to always include this detail about somebody startling him earlier on in the day. Every time he told the story, he would say, well, somebody jumped out from around the corner and scared me. And then, 3 hours later at recess, he punched this kid in the face, and he was always adding that part of the story. Nobody could figure out why, but his startle reflex, we knew from our testing, was really severe. So he had been triggered, and his startle response, he's walking around now with cortisol and adrenaline, and it just takes absolutely nothing to tick somebody off at that point. So I think the startle reflex, working on the startle reflex, we have a video where we talk about it. But if you want me to just message you the link for that too, please don't hesitate to send me a message and we can talk about this stuff. But the startle reflex is another really big key to helping kids with emotional reactivity. So we want to stimulate the right hemisphere. We want to integrate our improve midline crossing with really simple, starting with just knee slaps. If your kid can do knee slaps, then send me a message and I can send you the higher level stuff for midline crossing. But midline crossing is a really big deal for impulsivity and emotional reactivity, and also start working on that startle or Moreau reflex. So those are the 3 things that I want you to try for this week if your kiddo is emotionally reactive or impulsive. I would love to hear how it goes. And don't forget, we're offering that $77 primitive reflex challenge. We've got so many kids getting crazy, crazy results in the first 2 weeks of our program, and that is what I'm offering in this challenge. So if you're not sure, if you've been on the fence about contacting me or setting up a consultation, this is a great way to just kind of see what the program feels like, see what kind of changes you get in the first couple of weeks, and we can go from there. I'm really excited about it. So enrollment for that ends at midnight, and we have 1 spot left. We have literally 1 spot left at 50% off for our summer program. So if you've been thinking about that, if you want to talk about it, you can shoot me again your message or your phone number and a message on Facebook, and I will send you a text, and we'll just get something on the books to find out if this is the right thing for your family. If I don't think it is, I will tell you that, but if I think we can help, I will definitely tell you that too. All right. So, yeah, 1 spot left at 50% off. We've got registration for the $77 Facebook group challenge open until midnight. We are doing this again on Saturday and talking about sensory sensitivities. So if you've got a kiddo that is struggling with the way tags feel, jeans, shoes, socks, loud noises, whatever it is, make sure to join us on Saturday, because I am really excited about that. So, all right, you guys, message me if you have any questions at all, or if you want to get into either of those groups before the enrollment ends, and I will talk to you guys on Saturday. Bye.